Oh, we're recording.
That's right.
We're recording.
Okay. Episode 71, Driveline R&D podcast. This is Alex Caravan, Director of Data Science, drinking a sticky hand because Lindley's trying to get me lit.
Kyle Lindley, Post-Product Manager, drinking a Cloudburst. Who's in charge here? Because it's definitely not.
Who's in charge?
Not Anthony.
Who's in charge? That'd be me.
No.
Anthony Brady, primary host, R&D, Research and Drinks podcast. Driveline Baseball, Director of Sports Science. Wait, what did you give me? What is this again?
Whatever light beer.
Same ghost every night. Oh my
Brady
god, this
scares-
is creamy. This
Same
is
ghost
so
every night.
creamy.
I went light today. We got a company party. It's Saturday.
And Brady's
Casino
worried about
night.
his plus one showing up and
Casino night, and we have a guest. Recorded Saturday, Eric Jagers in the house, live in person,
Yes,
in
sir.
Seattle.
Let's go, baby.
Thank you for having me.
What are you drinking?
I got this Randy Johnson here. I'm not sure what it is. Let's see. It's
this is a craft.
No Boat Jandy Ronson Double Dry Hopped Mosaic Nelson Sauvin Deepa.
Dude, these are beers that
Randy
Eno
Johnson's
would
middle
have
name?
loved.
I got this
Yeah.
as a
These are straight up
weird
Eno
looking
beers.
Coors Light. But
You want to introduce yourself, titles, current weight, height, any
Yeah.
other
BJJ.
physical,
That's what we were just talking about.
physical
off air.
parameters you want to give off real quick?
yeah, Eric Jagers. I'm a 2016 Driveline trainee,
Goddamn right.
and I think I'll leave it at that for now. We're
Cliff
at
Holmes
Driveline.
is
We're
special assistant pitching coach.
That's
Is
right.
that okay? Can I
Remote
say that?
remote
Yeah.
trainee. Yep. No, you're not covered, so we're fine there. But yeah, man. Now just a pitching nut. I'll do anything I can, and if I see you moving how I think you can do a little bit better, I'm gonna give you a little something.
I mean, hey, I like the sound of that. What do you got on? How about this? Actually, if I make it out of the amateur bracket in disc golf, you down to be my caddy? If I go on the disc golf pro tour,
I
mean,
feel like that might conflict with my schedule a little bit, but
I mean, we can work it out.
yeah,
I'm just saying, I've never putted as confidently as I've putted than when you were there.
I do remember that. That was
Lindley, you could come too, because
Oh, are you
I'm gonna
talking
hit
about?
some water shots.
Are you talking about the
Need you to
course
hop
along
in.
the like creek
Yeah.
in Phoenix?
What were you guys ripping? You guys like
Dude.
ripped like a tree workout, and then I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I was just
Tree
chucking
rings.
plastic
tree
at people.
rings. Yep.
Rings and bands.
Got it in where we could, and then we joined him for the last
Last
Yeah.
three holes, I think. Yeah.
Bro, I lost 3 discs that day. It was tough.
I
What-
feel like it
It's
went.
insane.
You were on like an absolute heater.
Yeah.
And then we came, and it
Yeah.
kind of started going downhill.
Yeah.
It was
We
also,
also-
like very dark
Yeah.
towards the end.
I was shredding. I was under because I played the gold tees, like the pro level course,
Right.
and I was under on the front 9, and then I lost 3 discs on the back 9.
Yep.
The water hazard.
Oh, I went in and got one of your discs for you,
You
as
did.
well.
You went in
That's a
deep.
hell of a
You
caddy
went in
move,
deep.
too, Yeah.
Yeah,
What course was this?
Vista del Camino. It's like I actually
Phoenix?
think they're playing on
On
it this
Vista?
weekend. The disc golf pro tour starts this weekend for
Wow.
anyone following. Actually, I might be wrong there. All Star weekend was last weekend, but the
course.
disc golf pro tour starts soon.
Wait,
so
was it the same
that's pretty
weekend
big for me.
last year?
I think so. It was around
Dude.
the same time.
Whoa.
That's crazy. It started
Yeah.
that year.
I mean, I set a PR my last time I fucking disc
You
golfed,
did
too.
actually.
C-Tech?
Honestly,
Yeah.
you came out of nowhere. No, we went to
On 3 hours of
Tall
sleep.
Firs.
Oh, well, you tend to do that, dude.
Yeah.
PR after no sleep.
We went to Tall Firs. It was pretty lit.
I got there on. There's like something to that. Like if you're not on a sleep deficit going into like a low sleep night, like generally that day
It's
is
okay.
fine.
Yeah,
You definitely like have hell to pay
Yeah.
after.
I think it's the 2 days back that get you.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
bad one.
For sure.
But
Did you-
like you can kind of tap into the reserve
Yeah.
and like function pretty optimal. It almost feels like too like there's a little bit of like tunnel vision. You don't have a ton of effort to like
Yeah.
focus elsewhere.
You're
Yeah.
aware you've got to go 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the half marathon?
Mm-mm.
He FaceTimed me like the night we did a half marathon together. He FaceTimed me like
This is like
7
late June.
the night before, and he had like a mason jar full of vodka in his hand and was like he like took a pull from it or something and was saying that, and he was acting like drunk.
I was in
And
the
they were
backseat,
they were on their way out. They weren't
Yeah.
even coming back.
We're going to
And
concert.
then I was like, all right, this could be bad. Then he texted me like midnight or 1. I was asleep and I woke up in the morning.
He's picking me up at 5.
Yeah, and he texted me like, pick me up at this location. I'm like, okay, he didn't even get home.
Come on.
He didn't even go home. And then so I was like, when I woke up at like 5 or 5:30, whatever, I was legitimately like, at the last minute, I decided to go pick him up because I was like, I just don't want him to go run this half marathon and like kill himself or like pass out.
Yeah.
Probably had like a 95th percentile performance.
Oh, for sure, he
honestly.
beat me, dude. And he didn't even train. No training, no sleep.
I was running through this. I was running through this dark, like right away. There's this dark tunnel they warned us about. I didn't realize it was gonna be right out the gate, and I didn't have a light or anything. And it was just like I immediately lost Lindley, and there was this rail thin dude, probably like 115 pounds, just like jogging in front of me with a light, and I was like, this dude knows how to run. Because my main thing was like, I don't know how to pace myself.
Right.
I think if I'm running with Lindley the whole time, I think I'll like, I'll kill myself to match the pace. I just don't know. I just can't pace myself. So like, this dude for sure knows how to run. So I just matched that dude for 11 miles. Then I kind of got a little bit cocky. I was like, I kind of want to dust this dude. So I think I was running the first 11 miles at a 7-minute pace. Ran the next half at like a 6:30 pace or something. Completely got slammed. Just had him and like 8 other people pass me up. Probably like the last mile and a half at like a 9-minute pace.
Also, don't want to make myself just trash my own pace. I only finished like 20 seconds after Caravan.
But the crazy thing was, neither of us saw each other the whole time. They snapped action photos as you came out of the tunnel, and I showed us to Lindley. There's one of me turned 180 degrees, and I'm looking for Lindley.
I got that as a little bit of a safe play by you. Like, no training, no sleep. If you lose, totally fine. If you win, it's like, I didn't do anything for this.
More badass, yeah.
You know?
That's a good point.
The no sleep thing, though, I definitely agree, Dave. Because at Wake, I think I was on like 2.5, 3.
Mm-hmm.
When you hit like 93, 94?
There's definitely some adrenaline pumping, too. Like,
and anything else?
You got the sides of
well?
people.
There was nothing else. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I was a little hungover. But
No
not
sleep.
great. Not great. It was, that's probably the worst, like, peripheral vision setting I've ever thrown in. Just like, I was like, why are people on both sides?
Wait, were you there?
Like, there were people on the left and on the right. I was like, someone's getting...
Well, I don't know where else they were going to go. It's a little bit tight quarters.
Yeah.
Nobody's trying to
I've
catch
actually
you?
been pretty curious about that. It's like same with our live AB setup. We have our cage. We have bleachers to the side. And everything's way fucking closer than like in an actual game. Do you think pitchers actually care about that?
I do.
Like, do you think they're like kind of annoyed that people are walking and talking on the sides, like right next to the tunnel?
I don't know if it's so much that, but I've talked about it a ton where the hardest thing after both my rehabs was getting used to the depth of being out on the mound because you throw for so long in a bullpen with like, you've got a backstop right behind the guy. Usually you got like a fence. When you get out there on the mound, the depth of the backstop can catch you off guard. Same thing when I went to a D1 school because those fields are bigger.
Right.
Like smaller schools, you play at smaller fields typically. Mm-hmm. But I just remember playing at a few fields where I was like, dude, this guy feels so fucking far away. Like it was like all depth perception for me. It definitely fucked me up.
Have you seen his stats or Arsenal recently?
I mean, I've followed up with the latest Plyo Velo and
just making sure.
I know.
I haven't thrown off the mound in a bit.
Okay.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. No. I'll be on the lookout.
What's the onboarding plan for stud season?
I was throwing long toss today. I'm trying to get back to the baseball right now. I think I want a remo-cap in a week or two. Although now I'm a little scared because Hugo hit 92. So
Hugo hit 92?
Yeah.
I mean, you got that.
Yeah, I think I have that. I for sure have.
Yeah, I think you have that too, but I didn't know Hugo hit 92. That's a PR?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All time.
Yeah. I was about to say, I did not think.
He didn't have 90 in mocap before that.
Yeah, wow.
It's so badass.
Have you still been throwing jigs?
Yeah, I just threw. We got a force plate embedded mound, and I probably threw 50 pitches on. I think last Tuesday. This past Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing on Kinetrax on Monday.
That's tight. So do you do that with most of the tech you guys try to implement? Like you throw on it yourself and then try to get some takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've just kind of dedicated my arm to science, and if it was here, I was throwing 200 pitches on Rapsodo, and
seen that.
I'll sneak out to the bullpen if we got a side or something, throw some pitches on TrackMan. There's a couple dents in the tripod because I've thrown a ball on it. Oh, how'd that get
That's
there?
good.
You know, so my slider.
Yeah, at least there's no dents in the actual track, man.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, I love to do that stuff. Like throwing keeps me in tune with my body and things that I ask of others to do as well. And then yeah, any way we can like test and validate any of the tech and things that we're using and glean insights. A lot of times too, like, you know, it's okay, how are we using this? How does the workflow look with a player here? So putting myself in their shoes, and there's another coach. Okay, I threw a pitch, like, you know, what's the feedback loop look like? How can we use this? That sort of thing, so that we can just get trial reps before it goes live.
Yeah.
It's just a little different from like hypothetical, okay, we have this thing in place, here's how we're going to use it, versus like actually doing it. So I think
and I remember back in the day when we had way less, you know, clients, and also so we put that much more attention on pro clients. You just you know, upping intensity for Kyle Zimmer and Timmy and everyone. Like you were doing pull downs with Zimmer a couple times just to get them. And I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak for all of them, but I definitely remember you out pull downing him a couple times.
Yeah, and I mean, you have like the whole like Rob being the janitor story, like that kind of a thing. So like, I mean, we're able and willing and things like that, and like, you know, a lot of times competition can help drive those guys. So anything like we can do to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, it's been really nice to throw with the athletes. I've talked about it a bunch, but it's just like it's a cool experience. See what they're thinking, especially for to try to go like as long as I can without them knowing who I actually am. Like I'll wear like the Phillies shirt or like the Ole Miss gear, and we're just like, oh, you go to Ole Miss? It's like, no. Rangers gear or whatever. Like so confused.
Dude, it's something. It's something I wish I had more of, because like even when thinking about
pitching velo.
When thinking about just like the training, like how we're gonna implement new tech, new training, and new like feedback, whatever. I like technologies. I like a lot of times I think about like my time like playing, which is only up through high school and everything, and I lean on that so heavily when like thinking about it in a, like a theoretical sense. It's like if I had just a little bit more like through college or like some into pro, which is where most of our clients come from, college and like professional baseball, it would be super nice, and I feel like would probably make that part of my job way better.
Yeah, I feel like
or make me more effective.
You can be around though, like that's what you do have the ability to do. Like you're not gonna be able to go back and play college ball or play pro ball, but you can be around and understand what those guys go through and what they're doing, and I think that is a huge thing as well. So like, you know, it's the throwing or using the same tech that they are and understanding it. Like it's just relatability, you know, because I think that's like a big thing is, you know, it's easy to forget how like, you know, your arm feels after throwing a lot very often and things like that. And it's, you kind of get out of touch. Or same thing when we're talking about like cues or feels, it's like, you know, if you're not constantly like working through that and evolving it, you get like a really distorted kind of image or thought of like what you're trying to tell someone. So I think if you're constantly like doing it and even if you're not doing it, but you're talking through it with someone and you're asking what they think and things like that, like I think that's kind of where it really matters, you know? Like, I don't know.
Definitely. I think like for relating it, I mean, times when in the last few months, you know, when I'd have like a bad plyo velo day where like numbers would be down or something, or I'd just be like dogging it, like just going through that experience myself again and like reliving that frustration. It's just like so much easier to, you know, kind of like feel what the athletes are feeling and like, you know, experience.
It's easy to forget.
Oh, dude, it's easy to forget how fucking hard those workouts are. Like
how easy it is to get nerve entanglement.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I felt like I was close on a couple times, but the first time you have to go through the blue, red, yellow, and gray, and then go back to the blue, you know? Like, man, the first couple of days of that, I was like, what the hell is going on?
Dude, I mean, even the warm-up protocol, bro.
Yeah.
The first time I did that, I was like, holy shit. I feel like I just threw a whole pen after a fucking
the new warm-ups
wrist
we do
weights
here?
and shoulder tube and everything.
Like, we'll just cross off the 0 on the 20 reverse throws. Let's do 2 reverse throws.
The dude, it's sick. I don't know if you've seen it, but now like HP leads all the athletes together as a group in warm-ups.
I have seen
I think
that,
that's one of like the coolest things that we've done that we didn't do, you know, because I remember back in the day, dude, it was just it was just rogue, bro. You were doing dynamics in the cage or wherever you could find space. Some people were like rolling out for hours, all that stuff. Now it's kind of chill. Like 1 o'clock hits, HP, whoever it is, like settles, Kreider, White, Comstock. They just gather everyone up and run them through a group warm up for 15 minutes. It's pretty fire too.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Do some cool stuff.
Yeah, the kids are just doing like our academy kids have some wild warm-ups. Have you seen them? Well, they're playing like some version of like tag and capture the flag.
We do that too with the older athletes.
Oh, really?
It's honestly pretty fire. Like we'll do games, we'll do like relay races.
Saw a spike ball.
Spike ball is a good one. Yeah, they're pretty fire, dude. There's some.
Yeah, I mean, like, and obviously, if people are paying to train here and things, you don't need to trick them into training and whatever. But like, that's what that stuff is, right? Like, it's just a really fun, competitive environment to where you're driving, adaptations or just like a general warm up that's really good for what you're about to do. And I think especially today when it's like you're not playing tag with your friends a lot, like that's not as much of a thing. There's not like hide and seek and ghost in the graveyard and like these random like things that we did and stuff growing up, to where it's like putting that in, I think is huge.
And that's the stuff too that's like, I mean, if we didn't have that, I probably wouldn't ever do a dynamic warm up or like any kind of pre-throwing stuff, because I just look at that and I'm like, I'm invested in what I'm trying to do right now, but I'm like not that invested, I guess. It makes it way easier to like stretch out a little, doing stuff like that.
It's easy to cut corners if you're just like, all right, well, I'm running short. I'll obviously skip the 15-minute warm up.
That's literally what I did today, because I didn't throw with like a group or anything. There wasn't a warm up. Like I did a pretty eye-washy, like, grab my back leg, bend over, touch my toes.
A couple of these,
little arm circles, a couple J bands, and I was like,
I like some of the stuff they're doing too with like hangs and other like non like
bro, that shit is
warm-ups
so hard and also kind of scary at first.
But
they say it so casually. They're like, all right, you're just gonna do like a headstand on the wall and then like roll out of it, and I'm like, how the fuck am I? I've never what?
It looks also, it's just even crazier when you try to do it yourself. Like you see, like Rob, Jags, like a bunch of, like, I don't know if Caravan was doing it, but like handstands on the wall and shit like that. It looks hard. It looks like something I couldn't do. But when I actually try to do it, it makes it very clear that it's fucking weird and like a tough thing to do. Like when I try to do a handstand on the wall, I feel like a fucking giraffe.
Yeah. I haven't seen you do it. I really want to see you
do it. Yes, you have, dude.
Have I?
Yeah, we did that. We did one of my workouts together. Where we did handstands
way back in the day.
On the wall,
yeah. Dude, you were kind of scraping out on the last couple of seconds, I think. I remember.
Yeah.
We were trying to do 3 sets of 10 seconds, and you were bailing.
There was one, and I'm actually down to see this afterward, to see both of you guys try to do it as a race, where we were doing like, it was kind of like relays or just races, but you start laying down, and it's just, it's like 15 feet, no elbows, no hands.
Wait. You're laying down on the ground?
Laying down on your stomach.
Yeah.
And White just goes, go. No elbows, like your elbows and hands aren't allowed to touch the ground, but you got to get up and run. Those are the only rules.
That's crazy,
dude.
The first time I did, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how I did it because I want to see you guys try to do it afterward, but like
we just crash into like the catering services.
It's kind of fire. They're just like the HP guys. They'll just randomly like do something like that where you have no idea how to figure it out. It's just like, okay. And I was trying to watch the people before me, and they didn't even have good strategies. And I like go, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, that's okay. Use my.
Wait, so did you put them behind your back, or just can't do it?
Not gonna tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, you should film this after.
I'm very down. People. Yeah, I'm very down to see you guys try and duke it out.
Speaking of, though, to also gas up our guests a little bit. I've always been super impressed by your the variety of your sports background too, because you did gymnastics as a kid.
Right.
You wrestled.
I didn't know that.
What's up?
Yeah, that's tight.
Have you seen this boy do fucking gymnastics?
No, I haven't, but I'm fucking down. I mean,
smooth as fuck.
Are we talking like the pommel horse? Can you do that shit?
No. So
he's not in the Olympics.
No, and so I very, very foundational. I did it when I was, I want to say from when I was like 5 to when I was maybe like 7 or 8. And I used to go to this community center, like about basketball courts, you know, like that kind of a place. But they had a setup for gymnastics, and it was kind of like always out. And if there wasn't a class rolling, you could kind of go over there and just mess around and whatever. And like if somebody caught you over there, they'd probably have it off. But like when we messed around and tumble, and like they had a little foam pit thing, like the springboard deal, and like uneven bars and stuff. So I never went like crazy to the point where it was like I was competing or anything like that. But I got really, really good foundational like motor skills, I would say, of like I could do a very good cartwheel, I can do a back handspring. I never did just a tuck, like a back flip, until over the quarantine period, and we were living on the beach, so I was on a sand, and I was like, just gonna send one, and I landed it, and I was like, all right, I can do that, I guess. So but yeah, like things like that I think have really helped, just like, you know, that weird cross discipline of odd things. There's like I played soccer, like just weird stuff like that.
Yeah, you sent me that backflip video we talked about last podcast we did with you, where it didn't load, and it just had a sound on, and it's like, oh, and I was like, what did Jake send me? Just a dark video of Rob getting gassed up in the background.
I think it's those things are the most intriguing to me regarding player development and just physical development in general, because it's super fucking hard to study like and feel confident that you're getting any causal results from like this group of players or this group of athletes did gymnastics young and they benefited from it. But like it seems, just like walking through it theoretically, it seems like a really good, like the whole multi-sport athlete thing, like it seems a really good candidate for like just gaining better proprioception, better just like physical skills in general.
That was what I was gonna say, was like kinesthetic awareness.
100%,
just like
dude.
Being able to like move different body parts in isolation and control them, things like that. Like I think you're spot on.
Yeah, I think there could be. I agree, but I also think there could be a good amount of like survivorship bias with those things. You know, like if you just started to pick up gymnastics and you were just like ass at it right away, you might just, you know, not do it anymore, kind of thing. Like you don't already have that like natural ability to kind of start. So I'm less in on the like, you know, move all these different ways, try all the different sports, whatever. Like I think it's fine. Like if there's one out there that like works really well for you and you excel at that, like that would be my thing, is not trying to like form fit an athlete into a certain sport if they're just like, all right, that's just not it for you. You know, you can definitely get those gains elsewhere.
Yeah, I think like I remember hearing, I believe it was Dan Paff from Altus talk about like some of the most elite athletes in the world that aren't proficient in just like jumping jacks or like sprinting and like rudimentary movements being like a huge bang for your buck in training those athletes. So that's where like I think about that stuff too, is not necessarily like becoming an expert or excelling at a certain sport, but going through like the basic foundations of what those things might be. Yeah. You know, I think there's value there.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing workout wise? I know we were just talking about off air BJJ stuff, but have you changed like anything else in your usual day-to-day workouts?
Not really, man. I do jiu-jitsu like Monday through Friday, sometimes hit a Saturday class, and then I lift like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday usually. Yeah. I was funny because when you said like you do something, you're bad at it, I was gonna quote this. The first ever jiu-jitsu class I took was at Jay Page's in Mesa, Arizona, and he just posted something I saw today that was like, if you want to be good at something, first be bad at it, which I thought was a really cool way to kind of like put it, because it's so true. You do something, you get discouraged, and you're like, oh, I'm never gonna be, you know. But yeah, no. So that's kind of what I got cooking.
Yeah. And I've always been a huge fan of doing workouts with you, because every single time I feel like I work out with you, you're just like bringing something new to the table. Like whether it's like Turkish get-ups with barbells or just like the assault bike thing we were doing on and off. I've done it before, solo, by the way. But yeah, big fan.
Yeah, when we had it mixed up, I said it was 10 calories, like 50 seconds off. It was really supposed to be 10 seconds and 50 seconds. And we go through 10 calories and we're like gassing it to get there, and it's like 25 seconds. We're like, we only have 35 seconds to go, and the next time it takes us 30 seconds, and the next time it takes us 30. We're like, this can't be right.
It was basically it started, the easiest it was 50% like full intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah, half the time full intensity, half the time rest, and then it would just get steadily more and more. So it's like 40 seconds full intensity, 10-second break.
That's crazy.
45-second full intensity, and we're just dying, dude.
Something I've taken though from you specifically is like just adaptability, if you will, of just like, all right, I'm gonna like work out. Like I remember
just do something.
when Caravan first got here, like he's sitting working at his desk, like typing away, wearing a sweater, and just like, all right, like I'm gonna get up, takes out like 2 steps out the door, starts on a jog, and just goes on a run, comes back, sits down, starts working again. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't need to like roll out. I didn't need to like think about what I was gonna do for 40 minutes and have the perfect workout. It's just like, just move around a little. You know, like let's just move.
Okay.
What have you learned also, like training athlete wise? Like what stuff has changed in the last year for you?
Oh, a lot, I would say, with just the experiences of the season and thing like that. Like I would say one of the biggest things that I have a greater appreciation for is how difficult the game is, and specifically how difficult it is to be good for an entire season.
Yeah.
From a starter or reliever standpoint, but let's say like just basic stat line, something like ERA, like as a reliever, right? You have like one bad outing and that like tarnishes everything. Yeah. So when you look at these like guys, like they're like a Blake Trinan, a Kenley Jansen, like guys who like have consistently done this and over 60 appearances, like year over year over year, like that is so impressive, right? Because like it can also be a function of your defense, the positioning, like all of that bakes into this number. And when these guys are consistently so good, it's like you watch them on TV or whatever, like once or twice, or man, that stuff's nasty. But like when you're there every day and you see like how some misfortune or like you just don't feel very good or whatever it is can like ruin that. That's where I'm like, oh my gosh, like these guys are incredible.
I feel like it's so easy to compound too, and so when they do have like a bad outing, for it to not spiral is like so impressive, because I feel like it's so easy to like have a bad outing, have that blow up one, and just the next day show up and be like, all right, well that clearly didn't work, so I got to like fix a bunch of shit, you know, and then you're like tinkering mid-season, and then it can just spiral out. I mean, I've been thinking about that a ton right now because now that college baseball started. Right. I've been talking to some guys in college and just like, you know, hitting them up about that. I think that was my worst thing that I always did, is like one bad outing would like deviate, you know, my approach. Like I would ignore the successful appearances before that, and I'd be like, well, I gave up 3 runs, I blew the save, had a bad outing, whatever. So like clearly I need to learn a new pitch in the middle of the season or something. And I feel like that should just...
The funny thing is, as long as I've known you, obviously like you were not, you weren't playing in college for a, you know, like less of a, okay, I'm going to do really well in college, maybe get, you know, maybe going to pro baseball versus, you know, you're kind of relaxed. I'm happy to play semi-pro stage, but I feel like you've actually done a really good job of like a couple times I've, you know, I've seen you like, or you've told me you've gone blown up and then next time been nails. Like the mental game, I think for you seems like it's been a huge turnaround.
Oh yeah. I just have so much more like faith in like myself. Well,
trust the process, bro.
And just less pressure, right?
That, and I don't like build up each outing. Like, I think that's actually a fair thing to say about college, though. It's like one of the harder things about college baseball is it's so ruthless and cutthroat. Like, if you have a bad outing, you might not get asked to like pitch again. And that is like a reality of a college bullpen. Like you've got 3 games, you got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and maybe a midweek. I mean, you have a bad outing in a conference game on the weekend. You get a chance to try to like clean it up on the midweek, and both of those go wrong, you might not see the mound for a couple weeks, you know. So like I feel like the pressure and shit was just so much higher there. It's probably a little bit of coaching too. Like one thing I've talked about, like Barry, just I mean, I blew 2 saves in like $50,000 tournaments in 2019, and that was also the year we like won the NBC, you know, and Barry like put me out in the
your boy's going for a second beer because I'm about to be lit.
Let's go. But I think it's definitely a combo of the pressure, whether that's created by like the game and the environment, and also the coaches. I don't know how much of that is maybe the context of the game or the coaches. I guess it all kind of plays into it for sure.
I think the pressure though too, like if you put yourself back in, you're in Northern Colorado and you're in that bullpen and you're closing games, like right now, your approach is different than it was.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like, I think it's a little bit less about the environment and a little bit more about the mindset that you have now.
Yeah.
Which like has been forged through experience and like you said, coaching and things like that. But I think it's exactly right that, that like the mental side, like probably needs to be paid attention to a lot more. And there's a ton of strategies that I think specifically like Driveline has gotten better about, of like reintroducing game-like environments and anxiety and things like that that you are progressively overloading as you get closer to a season, just like you're doing with volume and intensity, right? So
exactly.
it's like if you're never out on a field, you're never wearing a uniform, you're never like have a guy on base, you're never like practicing pickoffs or holds or anything like that, and then all of a sudden you go to spring training and you get thrown in the deep end and you have to do all of those things at once, it's very easy to fail. And it's very easy for your mind to wander and spin and be uncertain of what you're doing, and then start to not trust any of the like training 100%. And stuff that went into what you did. But all that stuff's just so intertwined. And like I said, like me personally, like when I was here training people, like I didn't do a good job of that. We didn't do a good job of that.
Yeah.
And you could say,
I still think there are times when we don't do the best job.
Sure.
Definitely doing
sure. And like, yeah, we can always try and be better at it. I remember right when it was right before I went to the Phillies, we took Cole Uvula out and we went to Everett and we took a couple other pitchers and we faced their hitters.
Rubens.
Yeah. Rob Robbins was there. And it was like, yes, this is 100% what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, I have just failed guys before this and set them up for like catastrophe going into spring. And that was exactly how I felt when I went to Iowa. I was like, oh my, what? I'm wearing baseball pants. Dude. Like what in the world is going on?
You don't know the velocity of every pitch you
right,
throw.
Yeah.
That's the thing I think with the live AB setting right now. It's not as much the people on the side.
We're giving too much info?
I think there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to do, I've told other guys this too, is like, don't have your last live session. Like if you're going to go back to a smaller school and you don't have the velocity at the stadium, you should get a live session in without the radar gun.
100%.
Because that's one of the things where it is like, you give up a barrel and immediately your first reaction, because you're trying to like attribute it to something, could just be, fuck, my velo might be down. It was probably that. And so I try to hump up. Well, you don't even know how hard that was.
Yeah.
Here, you throw live, you turn around, you got 4 trainers with iPads, you got TrackMan, you got Rapsodo,
and dude's vertical break was 8 inches.
Exactly. Like Stuff Plus, they're telling you, like, don't worry, that was a good pitch.
Right.
You don't get that reassurance in the middle of an inning when you're out there. So I think, I've definitely been telling and recommending guys that if you're going back to a smaller school, especially that doesn't have technology, before you leave, like try to get a live in where don't have the coaches back there, turn the radar gun off, turn the tech off, collect that data in the background, review it afterward. But it's so easy because you're kind of playing 2 games at once in that setting. You're trying to get the guy out at the plate, but you also want the brake profile on TrackMan or Rapsodo. You also want the velocity on the velo board.
Does that match my PD session from last week?
Yeah. If you just turn all that off and you're just like, you need to get into the mode of just like, I'm here to get outs.
Yeah.
That's like that context.
So this is really interesting for me because, like, I mean, what Lindley said a couple minutes ago about him having wished he'd played to a higher like, level. Obviously that applies to me times 10. Because I never played baseball growing up. And
Jeremiah Paulson, dude.
Yeah. My first blue ball rolling. So for me, the mental game is something I can understand, but never like fully have gone through. And two things I've actually never asked you. Well, I've never asked you the second question, which is kind of personal. But the first question is, what do you think? So do you think the value of us having the West Coast League team, like, what do you think of that? Do you think that's like a pretty valuable component to have, just to put people in that situation of making it competitive, or like otherwise, like what do you think is the best possible complement to all the in-gym training? Because I totally understand, like I
think it's one of the harder things to solve for sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good, you could say, from a player side, but also from the staff side. I think it's really easy to operate under our own sort of umbrella and kind of
have a stay grounded, kind of too.
Forget like, you know, the elements of the game that go into something, and like, oh wait, you can actually succeed without your best stuff.
Yeah.
Like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And you can go out there and compete when like everything's not perfect and you don't feel that good, but like you still have to answer the bell, right? Like you can't push your velo day back one because you don't feel very good.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening.
And you don't have Chris Lingen in your ear telling you like how your slider looks and everything.
Right, but you, and then same thing, like you might have Chris in the dugout being like, hey man, like stay right there, like stay with your curveball. It looks good. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just two sides of that coin and both should exist 100%. But I think like your point, I've heard you say this a lot before, like you're alone out there.
Yeah.
You're alone on the mound. When it's not going well, it's a pretty lonely place.
I think you forget that so much here because you're with the guys, you're plyo veloing people, you're PRing together, you hit a number, immediately everyone's giving you a high five. Like that shit doesn't happen. Same way when things go wrong. And that's the time when it's like, you know, like I wish Hit Tracks had a setting where you could like plug in fielding percentages to like automatically get some errors sprinkled in there. Like that'd be so fire. In the middle of someone's live, a ball gets hit, right? And it's like
there's a ground at the third.
Yeah, it's like it says ground out, but oh wait, no, E6, you got to keep going, like stuff like that, because that shit happens so much, and you completely forget about it.
And I think you should embrace it too. Like, right, it's the make the training harder than the game type thing. Like, hey, let me make this a little bit more difficult on myself now, and then when I get in the game, it's like, oh, whatever, Eric got it. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
What do you got on ways that we could like actually do that? Is it we measure it, we have people around somebody in live ABs, we don't say like don't give them the velo, we don't give any like direct feedback to the pitcher at all.
I think the umpire is a good thing too.
The umpire, having the umpire in there.
Not use the hit track strike zone. Like, don't let hit tracks bail you out or anything like that. Sprinkle in a couple like,
and then
there's OG Gordo yell in the back. That's a ball.
Yeah, exactly. That shit's kind of good, dude. Like losing a call is fucking hard to deal with, especially when you make your pitch.
The other thing to me is like, if we were to like as trainers, would it be good to start like as a KPI, switch to if somebody's in a like blending phase, back to the mound, back to the game, like switch the KPIs from movement profiles, velocity, strength, all that shit to like outs.
Yeah.
And then
count
live
control,
AB score, anything that is like more on-field performance.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. 100%. Here's how I think about it is like, okay, you're learning to ride a bike. It's training wheels, your parents right there watching you, right? And then like you've taken the training wheels off, but your parent is still there watching you. And then at a certain point in time, you are just riding the bike and you're going about your business. They're not there watching you anymore. You're kind of free to go. And like that, I think, is the end result.
Yeah.
So what I would say is I think the first like iteration of this still exists where you are getting feedback on like how your stuff is playing, like what you're after in a live setting, because like you still are changing the environment, and like that's the variable here, right? Like, okay, it's no longer a pitch design. There's a guy in the box. You're trying to get him out. Let's see if this shape holds. Let's see if we're still getting the stuff like how we want it. Like there's value in that too. Okay, like we've established that. Okay, now like let's take that away and let's review it after, but like the emphasis is still on that. Okay, now execution. Like we're not going to review it like right away. Like we might even go to your next session like, and we don't care about any of it. We've already done that work. We've laid the foundation. You're really good at it. Like I'll let you know as the coach if we need to kind of like make an intervention on this stuff. You need reassurance, whatever. Go get them out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's because like you shoot for the perfect profile and the perfect delivery, and like you're gonna drive yourself crazy. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like you see so many examples of guys having success and making millions of dollars who have neither. They don't have the perfect pitches and they don't have the perfect delivery, but like they execute.
They just get outs.
Right.
Yeah.
You're also just like gonna miss on the things you're not focusing on. So every pitch that you're focusing on your movement or the your specific release, what position your hand is in.
Right.
You're going to lose out on something you're not as, like, that focus is going to take away from the focus of the actual at bat here.
No, that's really well put. And like, again, coming from like me and us understanding the importance of like all those things that go into it, like how everything travels to the plate, the ball flight, like how you're moving down the mound. Mm-hmm. But then at the end of the day, the game is the goal. The game is the goal. The game is the goal. The game is the goal.
Yeah.
Like
it's so forgotten.
Right. And then like I again, like bring it back to like my experience. I 100% like failed myself from that standpoint of like being good at training and being good at drills and you know what I mean? But like that doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't, you know? So, but I think like, again, like just to put a bow on it, I think we've done a really nice job of improving in that area, and I have no doubt we'll continue to.
Yeah. The thing I was going to ask you, my second question is going to be, when did you shift from like having your own playing career as a future thing? Because I remember when I first started at Driveline, there were rumors of you. Well, I guess this is for a few months, because there were even rumors of you, I think, pitching in Pro Day 2019, and you were still throwing hard. You're lefty. You're like, I remember you talking to me personally about like if you can like touch 98, maybe it's worth it. Otherwise, like you're not even thinking about it. Like how's that convo and how did it happen in your head?
Yeah, I think so I had left school at that standpoint. And
that was spring of 2019.
Well, I think before, because you didn't throw in Pro Day at 2019, so maybe fall 2018.
Yeah,
was when you were like thinking about it.
We had both started right at the new year, right, of like 2018. Yeah. So that spring, I think I had taken off of classes, but that fall I was enrolled in classes. And
I remember.
Yeah. So, So, I think
I definitely remember.
I was training guys. I was trying to train myself, and I was taking 12 credits, and we were doing the tour of America. And like, man, my stress cup just like completely overflowed. And I remember like specifically being at Driveline once at like 2:30 a.m. and like
asking Mike if you can put a bunk bed in.
That did happen. He originally told me yes, and then told me no. Rescinded his offer. But I submitted an anatomy test and I got like a 47% or something on it, and I was like, I'm done. Like I'm not doing that anymore. And it was kind of like that was the first domino to where it was like, what am I doing? Like what am I really doing here? What is the end game for me? Am I like a major league caliber player like ever in any world? Man, that's a really hard sell to myself. Like probably not. So, okay, I sell out, and do I, in my heart of hearts, think I could, like, have a chance of getting signed? At that time, yes. I thought that there was a minor chance that I could, but the best possible result of me performing and staying healthy was, like, I'm going to make it a month or something. Like, I'm either going to be in rehab right away, or I'm going to get cut, either what one's going to happen first. Yeah. So it's like, okay, then I set myself back, and I'm looking at kind of like the things that are happening in the gym and the opportunities and the people here, the clientele coming in. And I'm like, I think I just push like all my eggs in this basket of training people and doing that to the best of my ability, because what I felt like was I was doing poor in school. I was not happy with how I was training myself. And I wasn't like happy with how I was training others, because I didn't feel like I was doing any of those things to the maximum ability. Yeah. So that's, I guess, where it became a little bit more clear to me, was the kind of that like reality check of an F on your anatomy test staring you in the face and be like, hey man, figure it out. Yeah. That F was figure it out.
Yeah. I was gonna say quickly, that reminded me, Jake's talking about how we both started around the same time. My very first experience, like my very first showing experience of someone at Driveline was with Jags. My second day working there, I'd given that neural network speech, and I think I was working out later, and I hadn't been lifting weights for probably at least 3 years, just because like post college has been like kind of what you're talking about. Like I'm good at staying in decent shape regardless of what's around me. So I had no gym membership. I was just running, doing body weight stuff, doing stairs, whatever. Like jumping around a lot of different places, living in the Bay Area. And then I was like, all right, I'm back in the gym, and I'm doing a dumbbell bench, and like putting up like terrible numbers for what I used to do when I was really into weights, and Jags was just like walking by, probably thinks I'm like, like I'm the new quant analyst. We had a pretty small company, like 20, 25 people, and Jags was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like when I came up for a set, and I was just like, what's up, man? And he's like, let's go, baby, and just like daps me up, and I was like, all right, let's go. Like I had not talked to anyone. Like I said a couple of sentences to like, well, obviously Bodie and stuff, whoever I'd interviewed with, but like actually being there, and Jake's like, let's go, baby, and I was like, let's go.
Dude, I remember like summer of it's had to be summer of 2018, and like I think we were like hitting the trap bar or whatever, and we're just like repping out. It's like, I don't know, like 4x8 at like 405, and he's just like crushing through it. And I'm just like, this is like so cool. Like I was like, there's not another quant in the world that is like doing a 4x8 on a trap bar with 405. Like there's just not.
I remember the first time I ever met you. I can't tell the whole story, but it was when we played spike ball in the parking lot.
Wait, was that when the ball ended up on the roof?
I was gonna say, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, no, you yeeted it over the building, like onto the other side. Over? Yeah, you were trying to like go save it.
Yeah, a fucking tank, dude.
It was over, it was over 2-4. Like you hit it over onto the other side of 2-4 and had to go get it. And I was like, oh, what the hell? And then we did our strength assessment together. Do you remember that? Because I took that. You were like, yo, do some biomechanics on me, and you asked me to take a slow-mo video of you doing a squat with an open Hawaiian shirt. Yeah. And I was like, because I remember when we did the lower half stuff, and I was fresh out of college, so I was like still pretty strong lower half, and I was like lifting pretty heavy, and you kept up, and then you just dusted me on the upper half, like on bench and everything. You're just like, your numbers were so much higher than mine. It was like ridiculous.
I'd gone some reps in of boobins.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that was fun. And I mean.
And then 2 weeks later, you were living with me. I was like, what the fuck happened?
In bunk beds.
That's his history.
Jags, I have a question about kind of the transition from pitching coordinator, minor leagues to big leagues. Mm-hmm. I don't know how like coach river questions this is, but like biggest difference between training minor leaguers developing into big leaguers versus training big leaguers. Like what are the main like two things that stand out to you in how your like day-to-day training other athletes' life goes?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I think initially when I had first gotten the job, it was like right at the start of December in 2019. And I was really antsy to like work with the guys, you know what I mean? I was reaching out to guys, like reaching out, talking to DJ, like, hey, like, throwing programs, like getting guys doing like stuff, whatever, like all this stuff. And I was like, because that was just like what I did. And I think what you got to remember is like honoring who they are and like what they've done and things like that, right? You're talking about like a Wade Miley who's like 34 years old, who's like probably going to do what he does. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like same thing with like a lot of these guys who are established and have like been there, done that, so to speak. Cool. So I would say like difference initially was, the minor league guys are looking to the coordinator or leadership group for like, hey, what do I do? Like this is maybe my like first or second year being a professional athlete. Like how do I operate? Like what do I do in the off season? When do I start throwing? How many bullpens should I throw before spring? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about these other guys who have done this for a very long time, right? Like, you may have some out of high school who have been a professional athlete for 10 years, like even more maybe. And so they've done these things, so they don't necessarily like need you to hold their hand and tell them like, those sort of things. So I wouldn't say that I came out of the gates like really hot and was like, hey, I want to, we got to do this, this, and this. Like I tend to think that like my feel is okay in that regard, like not trying to push it too much. But I was kind of like, all right, like when are we going to get going? Like, that kind of a thing. But it's just it's hard to do any of that without having like a real relationship or priors. So like I think for me, like I needed to have a bit of patience and just like get to spring, get to know the guys, sit down with them, have conversations, and then kind of be able to like go some places and things like that. And then just learning like what they know, what they take to, what kind of learner they are, if you will. But it turns the difference is like, I mean, they're just guys, like they're just humans. You know what I mean? Sure. I would say like one of the bigger differences is just like the age gap. So like, what they were raised doing, where they've been, certain organizations, like you've got a guy who comes from a really analytically driven team. Like, yeah, he's up to speed. He wants to know the stuff. You got a guy who hasn't, and he's a little bit older and hasn't been exposed to any of that. It's like a foreign language to him. Mm-hmm. So, but that's no different than the kid in college who had no resources. His coach wasn't into that or whatever the, circumstances might have been, versus the guy who is, at the Power 5 with all the bells and whistles, and his coach is super on it and he's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So, I wouldn't say it's as much of a difference of like major league this, minor league that, because like you also got that guy who's like, in the major leagues, like he got promoted, like he didn't change at all, right? He's just like playing somewhere different now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. More just about like, the different walks of life, cultures, and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. What about like resources for you? Are they pretty similar between like minor leagues and major leagues, where you have access to help train?
Access to what?
Access to help train the athletes? Or...
Yeah. I would say there's definitely like more hands on deck for the major leagues, but I mean the Reds have done a heck of a job, especially on the health and performance side, of building out like an entire sports science department. We're going to have an applied sports scientist in the major leagues, Dan Adams. We've got a biomechanist. There's a director of sports science, and then a manager in the minor leagues and things like that. So I would say like, and there's the quote is kind of all over from our GM Nick Kroll, which is we need to align our payroll with our resources, and meaning like we need to develop from within, and we are going to allocate resources to that. Nice. So it's not going to be the big ticket free agent, like it's on us. And I think that, so while there may be more, resources or hands on deck, as I said, with the major leagues, there's plenty in the minor leagues too. And there's going to be plenty more in the future. So I think it's something that's, it's near and dear to us, and we know that that's vital.
As a side note, we should definitely have Adams on the podcast.
Oh, for sure.
I just realized we haven't had him, and we haven't had like too many strength at HB guys.
That'd be fire.
The thing I was gonna say is I mean, that's what stuck out to me last time I saw you, which wasn't too long ago in November. When I walked 25 miles, thought I was gonna see you in Scottsdale, but all good. No.
Okay, you did that for fun. Also, you just did that because you didn't have anything to do.
When he started saying walking and some distance, I thought he was gonna be talking about his San Diego to the Bay Area walk. You walked 25 miles in Phoenix.
After Dudo's wedding, because I woke up a little bit buzzed still in a house I didn't know, or in an unknown house to me. So I was like, I'm meeting up with Jags in Scottsdale. Might as well walk there. Sober up a little bit.
Why Uber? We could just walk.
Yeah. No, dude, he's addicted.
Yeah, I'm a walking addict. No, what I was gonna say is
he also claims is like, and I think it's true.
What?
That you're like 99th percentile walker. Like, I think you've said that on the podcast before, that you're like a really good walker. Like, it's not like really
in terms of like mechanics or like
steps walked. In terms of what?
You're just good at walking. Just like after going on the walk, you think you're like a really good walker. I think it's true because you walk everywhere. You're good. You're good at walking.
Mechanics are probably non-ideal, but I'm saying perseverance-wise, dude. Yeah.
You're just good at walking. Like, you'll just randomly.
He's good at running too.
You'll randomly walk from our house to Cap Hill, and you have a car now.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to do that, but you'll just do that.
just creating obstacles.
What are you doing?
Poking a hole in his tire.
No, I can't drive.
Is that what we have a spare on, dude?
Yeah. It's for sure.
Slash your own tire.
Okay, hold on. You had a point though.
No. Yes. So when we were in Goodyear, I remember you having taken a couple calls, and I remember coming away really impressed with how you're able to connect to athletes in their specific situation, whether or not you actually like went through it yourself. You were just like very, very empathetic and very understanding of, okay, like this guy is in this contract situation, or he can't work out until then, or he just went through an injury, or like the Reds might have like demoted him, like all this stuff. Like I was really impressed by that, and I mean like that's like got to me as like something you've kind of picked up in the last couple of years. Like, has that been like what do you think are the biggest things you feel like you've improved on personally in the last year?
This was before the lockout for anyone listening. If I was talking to any athletes. Just want to make that clear.
No, it's November 2021.
Yeah. No, man, I mean, I think, I want it for those guys as bad as they want it for themselves. Like, that's what I want to show them. And at the end of the day, I want to work with our staff and any of their support system to help them achieve their dreams. So I can't necessarily say that like anything's changed or anything in that regard. I've certainly tried to do my homework on, up-to-date technology and research in any like sort of pertinent areas that can help them get better. As well as just simply being there, because if I lack anything, it's certainly experience. So being around the more experienced coaches, like soaking in their insight and wisdom, being then helping me be a better coach. I would say that that's the advice that I would give to other younger coaches. And then like something that I've tried to really do myself is listen a lot more than like talking, and just watching as well. When I watch and listen to Derek Johnson, a bullpen session, like I can take away a lot. Yeah. And I do take away a lot. And fortunately I can be there very often and kind of watch him go through things. And, there might be an idea of like, okay, like I think this is kind of what I do here. And I'll watch him work through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah. And then you watch it work over and over and over again. And you start to see things outside of the numbers and the metrics and like things like that. And it opens up this kind of like other side, to it, which is like, it's the art and science, and it's the blend of those two. And it's in the middle where like that sweet spot is, and you want to be able to go to either side of that spectrum as you need to with each individual athlete. I might need to go way into the science side because we need to develop this pitch. Like we have to get this thing right. And I might need to go way on the art side because this guy's so worried about that thing that he's forgetting about like, getting 0-1 or like getting an advantageous counts. Like, simple things. And so, but I think being able to deploy all of those things and having a very sort of like big toolbox to reach into is huge. And it's like, you mentioned it with playing stuff. You have mentioned it as well. Like I could certainly say the same. I never played one inning of pro ball. That's stuff that we are never going to be able to get, but we can latch onto people who have done it a lot. We can watch the game. We can learn from it and then be able to kind of like apply that stuff secondhand. Yeah. So that's I think what I've tried to do most is like immerse myself in the game.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment or anything where through like, I guess at any level of your kind of like trajectory upwards, like going from your time here into pitching coordinator and then into assistant pitching coach, was there ever like a time at any of those changes where an event happened or something and you were just like, oh shit, I need to work on that skill specifically? Like that's a skill that I need to, like something happened and you were like, this is an area where I gotta focus on because it's kind of new or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would. There's tons of things. Like I remember showing up to Philly spring training, and so like the day I got hired was March 22nd. Not the day I got hired, but my first day on the job, March 22nd. So if you know anything about spring training, like that's kind of towards the tail end. Yeah, there was 1 week left of spring training, and I just get kind of like thrown into the fire, and I'm there, and I'm like, oh my, like there's like a million moving parts here. Like, there's games going on in every field, like major league teams playing over here. Like they're talking about who's going to break with what team and like all this stuff. And it's like, this is a lot to process right now. So just thinking about like, scheduling out like innings and things like that. Like my first kind of experience running that myself was doing it with Kyle in spring of 2020, and it was kind of like, okay, this is easy enough. It's on a small scale, and went to the alt site, and then I was like on my own doing it. So just simply like, orchestrating the logistics of like, okay, these 4 pitchers are going to throw at this time, and like they have to throw here and they have to be done at this time because the catchers then have to go over here, and like, respecting all the other like kind of departments. It's not just about when your pitcher is going to do like one thing. It's the whole massive picture. So I would say like, that's a big thing. Just like simply being a pitching coach, like, right. Like it's a lot different than being a trainer. There's a ton that kind of goes into that. So just again, like, leaning on the experience of others. And that was a really cool thing for me in 19 was, in roving around, just spending time in the dugout, and like, I'm not there to like do anything in particular. I'm going to like, write up a report and whatever else afterwards. But like a lot of that was for my own benefit to like get a feel of like, what is this game like? It's 6:40, it's 7:10, like the lights are on, like here we go. What do we got? So, I would just say like all of it, but the biggest side of it is just the game, and how different things can be between the lines. Yeah. As opposed to like a controlled environment.
Yeah. Has your opinion on tech changed at all in the last couple of years? Obviously, Driveline, we constantly have technologies running, Rapsodo, TrackMan, Blast, DK, our own mocap lab, like, whatever it is. And then kind of like when you move to the working with a pro team, you might not have all those things all at once, but the environment is different. Like, I'm curious, like, are you, how's your kind of relationship with baseball tech changed?
Yeah. So I think a couple things, like it's like the Einstein quote, right? That's like, not everything that can be measured matters, and not everything that matters can be measured. Something like that. So I would say that like, I think that holds true. There's things that like you see that like we can't measure, either we just can't like right now, or just like specifically now we're not there yet, that like, matter. Yeah. And I think it's really dangerous to try and say that like, discount that thing because like can't quantify it. Yeah. Right. Like there may have been a time not too long ago where like late break is not real. Like can't measure it. And we start to learn about like seam effects, and we start to get measures of where the ball is at in space, and like how sharp the angle is and things like that. And we're like,
what the fuck is laminar flow?
Wait, late break might be real, right? And then you sound like an idiot from before, because like you were the one who was so adamant about like quantify this, quantify that, like that you didn't honor that thing that we just couldn't quite measure yet. But like these lifers or more experienced guys were like, no man, I'm telling you, like, late break's real. Ask any hitter. You know what I mean? And any hitter would be like, 100%. And so I think like just honoring and respecting that like things evolve, and that nothing is a definite or absolute, and being very wary of that. So like, right, you had the demonization of sinkers for like a long time as well, and teams or just individuals as well that like devalued those pitches might be the same exact people, very well may be the people who are like loving sinkers now, because they're understanding value from like a seam shifted component or from a deception component or things like that. I think like some of the research that's coming out with the deception stuff is really cool too, from like Pro Play and obviously teams that have different models and things like that, is like, oh, that stuff's very real, to where it was like before you hear a ton of people talk about it. It's like, nah, like, I'm
hitting the ball, dude.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's those same people who kind of come back. So for sure. That's I guess where I say I would like kind of fall on that.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting game of chess. Like, it's like the more you devalue something, like, okay, like we shouldn't teach people sinkers, and then like all of a sudden, like whatever team is prioritizing sinkers, people aren't used to seeing that pitch. And they have like a expected like advantage.
The meta of the game is always changing. I think right now is one of the most interesting.
The meta is to be non-meta, dude.
Well, and also, chill out.
I mean,
that's
like that for sure.
Second beer, dog. You gotta chill out.
Wait, that's actually good. Yeah, that's fire.
And I think an interesting call we haven't really touched on is the sticky stuff too, right? We had like high spin rates. There's a crackdown. A bunch of people's spin rates dropped. Then after a couple months, people's spin rates started picking up again.
All natural.
But either way, it's such an interesting like game of like, okay, is it more important to have, or is it more deadly to have a high spin rate constantly, have a high spin rate initially, and have that decline through an inning? It just, I don't know. It's just like constantly back and forth.
I think
constantly
that's pretty tight at the higher level. But I think one of the more interesting things right now is the dynamic of the accessibility of technology at the upper levels of baseball and the lack of it at the lower levels. It's starting to catch up a bit, right? But you might have these guys in colleges that are trying to maybe optimize their arsenal for like some type of stuff plus, or something to advance it. But like they might already have something, like that what Langan talked about, like the dark matter deception or whatever it is that we don't quite understand yet, that gets them outs. And they could be abandoning it for, oh, well, if I want a chance to play, they're, scouting, recruiting, it's all starting to move towards like, I need
axis
pitch
deviation
level.
On your sinker.
Yeah, I need pitch level metrics. I need stuff plus all that, right? But you still have these guys that are at smaller schools where maybe they don't have that information to send, and they're just punching tickets and getting outs all year long. Yeah. And then the first time they throw on those technologies, maybe they don't have the like standout, stuff plus and metrics. So there are those guys that are kind of like, getting lost in there. Maybe they're not sure what to optimize for. It's really interesting because you could just abandon what works for you and maybe try to prioritize something that would get you to that level. I think it's like a really, really like, it's almost like an awkward dynamic between, what people are looking for. It's like, hey, I know that works there. We don't think it's going to work here, that kind of stuff. Like you might just, players like that could fall through the cracks and you could, maybe put a little more stock into someone else.
Like our old colleague, Matty D. Game theory, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, eventually the game's going to go there, yeah.
What is that?
When's the check-in?
Next September.
March 2025.
It's just so hard when we're working with humans, and human research is so noisy. There's so much shit we can't quantify. Like there's easily more stuff that we can't quantify than what we can. Any like change, any signal that we see, like if we change that, there's no way we can predict all of the like first, second, third order effects that it's going to have. So it's just like,
it's just like it's a population thing versus an individual, right? Like you can get a system going that's successful for a large group of people, but that will obviously never be accurate for every single individual case. Yeah, so it's like, are you
ones. What's up? The crazy ones are like the thing now with, I mean, Pitching Ninja has obviously been a net positive for the baseball community for sure. But one weird thing that happens with it is like, putting out everyone's grips and all this stuff. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, I can just do that and I'll get a sweeper. Or, I can get a laminar two seam if I just try this grip, or I try to throw like him. Like a lot of people will try to form fit themselves into other arsenals or types of mechanics and stuff when, I mean, like what they could be doing could just be working, right? Yeah. Like optimizing for the wrong things or not knowing what to latch on. There's just so much information out there.
We should try to get Pitching Ninja on the show, though. No,
And not after that slander right there.
No, dude,
cut that shit out.
No, I'd actually love to get his take on this, and I bet he'd be down too after. I got to tweet out or
just retweet my post about mine and Lindley's.
Dude,
me and Lindley. Did you see that, Jake? Have you seen that clip?
Cleats came in.
I tweeted out this clip of me and Lindley just dying laughing in one of our podcast episodes. You should check it out. I don't want to say it on air.
Do it. But no, just to like wrap this thing, I think a lot of like you said, the grips, the pitches, all that stuff like goes into like biomechanics. I would say is now at a point where it's like widely accepted, and like a lot of teams are doing labs and colleges and things like that and implementing it into their development processes. I actually really like this quote, and I think it was from Franz Bosch, that like there's not a lot of bio and biomechanics, right? Like we're not made up of steel rods. And like, so you're talking about humans as like complex systems and things like that. And it's like, that's very real too. So like you start to form fit yourself into different mechanical profiles and things like that. And like, it can be like incredibly dangerous for you. And the other thing, like outside of just that, is like efficiency does not equal performance, which is like kind of what we were talking about as well with some of the deception stuff or whatever. Like some of your inefficient movements might be very efficient in outgetting. And like then you have the argument of like longevity, durability, all those things, and like that's real as well. But like, I mean, you're talking about like, you know, something that inherently you do very well and like perhaps have adapted to take on stress more efficiently or whatever that like works for you. And now you're training yourself out of that to optimize what you're doing when really like it could be very detrimental. Yeah. So like, there's a lot to it. And I think there's like principles that you can take and try to adhere to and train individuals and things like that. But just understanding that like, it's not black and white, I think is huge. Cause you can go down like a crazy path and honestly like fail your athletes. Like, and like, that's the same thing. Like when we talk about like tech evolving and things like that, like I remember in 2018, like trying to get all of these like super efficient curveballs that were just like slow because we didn't know any better. And like, and then it's like, oh,
good.
Right. And then it's like, okay, other side of the spectrum. Now it's like nasty, hard slider. And like, but now, okay, the curveball has no place, but it's like, wait, what about like the dumper, like the called strike that gets you back in the count? Like, it all matters.
I'm cutting my fastball. That's fine.
Right.
You know?
So like, I think that's the thing is just like not, you know, like taking something in and then like forgetting everything else, discounting everything that's ever happened in like, it's this thing. This is the thing.
100% rules in baseball. If at all.
Potentially zero,
It's so easy to do that. That's what I was saying at the very beginning of how like I would have one bad outing and I would just like completely toss out the last 10. You know, I would just ignore like all the other times that my stuff was great. And I would just focus in on that one time and like, it's fucked. I gotta like, you know, we gotta redo everything. I gotta mix it all up. But
we should start wrapping this.
Casino night, baby. Jags, I'm super fired up you came back for it. For the pod. I know you came back for the pod, but I'm glad you're back for the casino night as well.
Man.
I can't came back for that roll with me.
If I can't be on the field, I'm gonna be in the studio with my boys.
Fuck yeah, baby. Let's go, baby. R&D podcast episode.
Let's go.
71.
Jags, do you want to be the first second return guest? We'll have to get you back in a few months.
Well, technically, he is the second return guest.
No, like somebody who returns twice.
Oh yeah, we haven't had a 3Xer.
We had O2. We had O2.
We've had two 2Xers now.
Yeah.
Or three 2Xers.
Let's go, baby.
Jags. Yeah.
I'm game whenever you guys want to run it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hell yeah, baby.
Fuck yeah. Love
That's
Jags.
a wrap.
Peace. Peace.